there any questions on this?
Can you say again, what was that previous amount that we approved?
17,800.
So we're actually less now. Well,
No, we're adding 12,200.
cash wise, we're less.
12. Well, initially that was just to do the nets without any post replacements. After we analyzed the posts and realized we had to replace the posts, plus we're extending the length on these posts, and it should help a little with the neighbors across the street.
So how many posts are we replacing?
5.
And they'll be how tall?
An additional 22 feet above, so 52 feet
They'll be 52 feet.
in just the first 5 poles.
How tall are they now?
They're above ground.
It's more of a long-term solution than just a Band-Aid, and so I can see it makes sense to spend $12,000 more to make a long-term solution.
But then the fencing is all fencing, it's not just for proportions. Okay.
It's a brand new net, right?
Okay. Any more questions on the driving range fence? Okay. On the second item, there was a misunderstanding at the very end of last June when we were passing our final budget. The Lone Peak Public Safety budget comes in at the very end, and I had a number from David that included the admin fee, and the way Scott Jackman remembered it, they were both correct, but one was the total cost, admin plus fire and EMS, and one was just fire and EMS. And so we adjusted it. Scott was adamant that it was the 626, and so there was just some confusion there. After further discussion, David with Lone Peak Public Safety needed to add 11,000, and so. Since our insurance costs that we anticipated were lower than when we were switching vendors in July, we didn't know exactly how much our insurance was going to be with Olympus, and it ended up being a lot less. So I recommend that we adjust that budget down, insurance, to offset the cost. Any questions on this? That's all I have as far as budget amendments. So.
Okay. This is a review action item on budget amendments, so you don't have questions, I will
I
entertain.
do have a question.
You have a question?
I do have one question.
Go ahead.
So, what's the bottom line total cost for the driving range fence? Is it $19,700?
Cash, 30,000.
Okay.
Non-cash, 7,500. That's the season passes.
So that's where I see when you were showing us the spreadsheet of the fund balances, that's the $30,000 for the fences.
Any other questions? Okay, I will entertain a motion then.
I'll make a motion for it.
Go ahead.
I will motion to adopt resolution number 24/2014B. Is that what we're on?
Yep.
Yes.
Resolution adopting and amending the 2013-2014 fiscal year budget for the city of Cedar Hills, Utah.
Got a motion?
Second.
The motion has been seconded. Any further discussion? Let's have a vote. Mr. Crawley.
Aye.
Mr. Augustus. Aye. Mrs. Reese.
Aye.
Mr. Geddes.
Aye.
Mr. Zapala.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Last item is a discussion item. It's for our capital projects fund, motor pool fund, and vehicle replacement fund. So, Carol, presenting on this as well.
Yes. Yes, but I anticipate maybe some comments from David or other people or Jeff.
You're welcome to bring up friends and you want
Okay,
to contribute.
because they are the ones that know the vehicles better than me. So, for this next budget year, we're proposing replacing 4 vehicles and 1 ATV, 4 trucks. And let me explain a little bit our philosophy on at least what I've viewed from watching Public Works and David when they're replacing vehicles and how they determine, why do we get usually Fords or why did we get a Toyota or whatever. And the process that we go through is they actually look at several models and they go to the state and they get bids on several models with that function for the task that they're asked to do. So we don't ask like a passenger car to plow streets. We get the right kind of vehicle to plow streets. So they go through the process, and Jeff is very non-biased, even though I don't even think he likes Fords. They seem to, traditionally, they seem to lowball most other brands. And so
Is this a slight against a Ford?
I know you drive a Ford truck.
I drive a Ford truck.
I'm sorry, my uncle was a Chevrolet mechanic, so I can't.
And Charlotte, my 4-wheel drive over you.
That's fine. You can love the Fords.
These people can't vote.
Everyone has their favorite type of vehicle, and Jeff's really good at not thinking about being just non-biased and saying,
Because you drive.
okay, even if this other car might have a little bit resale value, if I can get a Ford F-150 with 4-door for $21,000 and I can sell it for almost that in 3 years, then that makes a lot more sense. So that's what happens when we do the analysis on these, whether it's, when we got the Camry, I know we looked at Chevrolet, Ford, whatever, and it actually came in at the best price. And so, and they have great resale value too. And so, we're not just picking our favorites. There's no bias here, at least not that I've witnessed. There's usually some thought behind this. And so, so we don't say the specific models. Well, like for the vehicles, we say 1 compact or mid-sized truck for zoning, 1-ton flatbed truck for Public Works, and 2 other 1-ton trucks. And then they have an ATV that they would replace. And the advantage that a city government has over every other type of private individual is we don't pay taxes when we buy these vehicles. And if we don't modify them, like we don't have a police fleet that has lights that go on these vehicles. So we don't have a lot of aftermarket expenses on these type of vehicles. Now, when we buy a 10-wheeler or a bobtail, there is a big loss when we try to sell those vehicles. And so we hold on to those type of vehicles much longer. But on our trucks, we rotate them fast because we have a price advantage right when we buy them. And the longer we hold on to them, we lose our price advantage. So, anyway, any questions on the motor pool vehicle numbers?
I have a quick question. So you've given us this vehicle replacement schedule, and it has all kinds of colors in various rows, and I don't know what those colors mean.
Colors don't, they're just...
So if you were to look at that in this year, it shows you there's 4 colors. They are corresponding to a specific vehicle, and they would buy and sell in this fiscal year that vehicle. So,
and then going across it says I'm going to keep that vehicle for 3 years.
Yeah, and so if you go across, say that first gray, from here it's gray.
Yeah.
Then if you look 3 years down the road, it gets replaced again according to this schedule. And so that's why we keep track of the vehicle, the fiscal year we purchase them, when we need to sell them, and then 3 years later, same thing again. Now, one thing we're trying to do with the vehicle replacement program is to balance the vehicles that need to be rotated so that we don't get a whole, we don't want to replace 6 or 7 vehicles in 1 year. We want to have a balanced approach so that we don't have to fund too many vehicles in 1 year and then the next, because it hurts our cash flow. So we do pay cash for these vehicles. And like Charles said, there actually is a lot of analysis that goes into why a specific vehicle should be purchased and what the resale value is. There's some examples on the bottom of that sheet of what we've paid for vehicles and what we've sold them for. And we keep track of that because what we're trying to do is limit or reduce our outlay for these vehicles. Some of these vehicles, we're getting them much cheaper than we could even leasing the vehicles. And if that's the case, then that is showing us that this program is working.
So I know that,
Oh,
go ahead.
that average monthly cost is exclusive of depreciation or?
Includes depreciation.
Well, that's just the difference between what we bought it, what we sold it, and then the months divided into the difference.
Oh, with no actual maintenance?
That's just the cash,
Okay.
the cash outflow.
Well, and there's no cash maintenance, no outlay for maintenance because they're all on warranty.
Right.
And that's the beautiful part about the replacement program is you're not putting a lot of money into the repairs on these vehicles. We're burning off the warranty and then selling.
That was basically what I was going to say. I know I ask this every year, but I always think it's good to just explain to residents why financially it makes more sense to rotate these on a 3-year basis than just to run them into the ground and keep them for longer.
Charles' idea was to rotate them every 6 months, we'd make more money. But I think that's a little
No, I
aggressive.
said they told me legally we can only do it once a year, but it is a lot of paperwork for Jeff, and they can spend all their time just like doing paperwork and not actually doing anything outside their office, and so we try to get them outside of their office sometimes. Because we don't have a purchasing department. Any other questions? Yeah, this is just what we're proposing. This isn't something we approve right now, but if we don't hear any objections, then this is what we'll recommend in June. Would you like to move on to capital projects?
Sounds good.
Okay. I can do this. Okay. All right. Because the impact fees weren't finalized yet, we just started talking about expenditures tonight. So, as far as new projects, and one of the things that was brought up at the retreat was the Harvey Roundabout project, and so we put in a budget amount of $300,000, and this funding for that would be street impact fees. That's just a tentative amount. If we could do it for less, then we would do it for less. But that is just a number that David wanted me to use. So,
Do we have the room there to do it in your brief analysis?
A cursory look would show that we have room. That Harvey Boulevard is one of our widest roads because it's a collector grade road. So it's as wide as any street in our city. Roundabouts take a lot of room. And it would have to be a small roundabout, and it would have to have a mountable curb on the inside. So as vehicles go through that roundabout, if they were pulling a trailer or something, that it could actually go up into the interior of the roundabout.
Similar to the one in Alpine, I think, because that's not right.
Yeah, it's mountable for about 6 feet, and so, but then they have that curb wall straight up. So it'll be much smaller than the Alpine one. It'll be smaller than any roundabout we have. But in addition to the center treatment, we would also need to treat each leg of the intersection so that we are keeping traffic going in the right direction. So there would actually be a curb on each leg that would extend basically from the curb of the roundabout into, up the road a short distance. So that would force people to take a right as they enter the intersection.
So that's the teardrop coming back.
So that's the teardrop coming back. And possibly some modifications to the curb and gutter sidewalk to narrow down that section. Because typically you don't want them as wide as that intersection is all the way around. So we may be modifying the curb gutter complement.
I did look at that again after we met last night, and I think although the intent of the whatever you call it, the triangle, what do you call that?
Speed table that's down there.
No, the view triangle, what do you call that?
Oh,
Sight
sight.
triangle. I think the intent is there, but because Harvey curves off, you actually lose some of that. So, I mean, there could be an alternate way of extending that triangle down a little bit further and lowering that one fence as well. I don't know. I mean, maybe another option too.
Okay.
So this was a number that we wanted to plug in, and again, the council can debate any of these proposals and modify and adjust. This is the first shot at looking at the capital projects, and so we can modify these as we go. Charles will be presenting different components of the budget in pieces as we go through, so that you guys can really get a feel for what's in it. Instead of giving you the entire budget all at once, it can be overwhelming to look at all the different details. So,
Hey David, can I ask you one question on that? Are those numbers that you guys put together, the 300,000, is that staff numbers, or have we looked at or talked to anybody to get like kind of a ballpark idea on what that would cost? 'Cause I mean, there's a lot of things that go into that, and that number can change fairly drastically depending on the scope of work that we do now.
yeah. So this is just a staff number for now. So we haven't done any engineering or any design work yet.
Okay.
So that's
Purely staff's number that they plug in.
yes.
Okay, cool.
That's a guesstimate.
The official thought, definition of it.
It's just a
Are
guesstimate.
you gonna address the miscellaneous projects also, or is it time to just
Yeah.
ask questions at this point?
Oh, no, I'll go down each project.
Okay, thanks.
Any further questions on the roundabout? No? Okay, so the next one that we added is we set aside the care tax money for 2015 and the new park development impact fees that we have for the Bay Hill Trailhead Park Phase 1. And that was 50,000.
I'm sorry, I did have a question. I thought you skipped over the Harvey Boulevard widening. Is that right?
Yes, because that wasn't really new, but
Yeah, I know that's not new. Is that, how needed is that to do that in 2015 as opposed to pushing it off a few years?
it's my understanding that there's certain items that we, because they're under litigation, that we have to budget for them. If we lose that, so.
That's in conjunction with the building of Deerfield Park.
Right, okay.
And that's one of those items, so is Deerfield, yeah, like she said, Deerfield Park projects.
And so then the Bayville Trailhead Park Phase 1, this is what we talked about at our retreat about doing a phasing of that park instead of trying to build it all at once. And so you've allocated some money in the budget tentatively to, where's that estimate coming from? Is that just a staff estimate?
That's based on what funding we have available in those restricted funding sources.
Do we have a sense of what that would do for us?
So the initial portion that we would want to do is the playground area up towards the Bay Hill Street itself. It wouldn't do any parking lots or anything like that, but that would exceed that cost. So this would be more for a playground site and equipment.
Okay, next project is the Canyon Road Sewer. And this would come out of the water and sewer fund balance. And it is one of the projects that was listed on the Bowman Collins study. It's actually listed for 2014's budget. And this would need to take place before the road is milled and whatever. And this
Can you
budget,
explain what that is?
the Canyon Road Sewer.
What are we doing?
Well, I can tell you that this original budget that was put in Bowen and Collins was based on it becoming a county road and having less restrictive requirements. And if it's still a state road at that time, then it will be much more expensive.
So this is basically just getting sewer to all of our residents that right now are in the septic system on Canyon Road.
Correct. It's an extension of the sewer main, and it would actually come out Monson Lane, and then it would also tee and get all of the residents on Canyon Road. So right now we can service residents from Box Elder south on Canyon Road, but we cannot service residents on Canyon Road north of Box Elder. So this would pick up that low point and then take it down Monson Lane.
But you're saying if the state maintains ownership of the road, the $400,000 wouldn't cover what they would require that we do?
Yeah, their construction standards include installation of flowable fill in the entire trench of any utility that's installed. And that is hundreds of thousands of dollars of just flowable fill. Whereas if it were a county road or a city road, we would use either native if it was good backfill or imported backfill, but not flowable fill.
That flowable fill would probably be close to the $400,000 for that section, wouldn't it?
It is.
So do we have an idea if UDOT maintains ownership of that road, what would it cost us to do sewer improvements there?
600,000 to 800,000.
Is there an urgency on doing this item this year?
You know,
For those residents, yes.
Well,
the
I
sewer-
don't know if it's worth $400,000 to those residents either. I don't know.
you know, eventually the city, we should be planning to provide sewer services to all of our residents, and their septic tanks are failing. And so, by state law, when a septic tank fails, they need to hook onto a sewer line. And if there's one within 400 feet, which in some of those cases there is not, and then that is the onus back on the city to provide that sewer. So it is something that has been on our capital improvement plan for several years.
So in the past, when one has failed, what we haven't provided in the past, why is the urgency right now to do that?
I think a lot of it has to do with just how many are going to fail. They will start failing more rapidly and more of them. So they've been sporadic. Septic systems only last a specific amount of time. And so there have been a couple fail, and they've had to try to rebuild those. But even the rebuilds aren't going to last. So they will fail again.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but part of the reason why we were discussing it for this year was because of the improvements that UDOT was going to do. And once they do those improvements, the cost for us to then go tear up the road and put the sewer system in goes up dramatically.
And they won't even let us.
They won't even let
They
us.
won't give us a cut on it.
But it's a lot easier to do it when they're doing their construction and they've already got the road torn up than to try to do it either before or after. We need to time it so that it can be done at the same time, right?
Right before, we need to do our project right before they do any work on their service. Jeff, do you have a?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that at the end of last year, we did initiate our sewer management plan, sanitary management plan. Part of that plan is required that the jurisdictions will fund and provide the sewers to the locations where people are on these septics and allows them to get off of them. That is incorporated in that new plan that we have.
And I know some people, it seems like people have preferred having septic. Some people may prefer having septic. I don't know. It seems like I've known people that have said, oh, it's great. But anyway, the question I have too is, how many of our residents, I might have missed that, you might have mentioned it, how many of our residents are going to be serviced by this?
I can't recall the exact number, and along that roadway, there's both Cedar Hills residents and Pleasant Grove residents, both along that section.
I would like to know how many of our residents and possibly even know if that's a priority for them, because $400,000 is a lot of money. I think there's a lot of priorities for the city. I just wonder if that's the top one. So I just question if that's one of the top priorities, because there's a lot of things that we need to do as a city, and so I asking you a question. What
As-
puts this as a priority?
Yeah, and as you're considering the priorities, consider the funding source. This is a restricted fund just for sewer. So we can't say, hey, we would like to park more than the sewer line. This is, I mean, they are sewer funds. They have to be spent on sewer projects that are identified, and this is one of the projects that's identified because it's a restricted fund.
So we can't use it for anything but sewer, and this is the top sewer.
David,
Not all of it, but some of it.
David, that's not quite true.
Well, we are using impact fee funds.
No, we're using unrestricted fund balance in water and sewer.
But water and sewer
So,
funds.
water and sewer funds are not restricted. They can be spent on anything.
Thank you for clarifying that, that's helpful.
But politically, it's really stupid to spend it on recreation.
I was gonna say, charging residents for water and sewer and then spending it on recreation would be a very bad idea.
We would get burned at the state.
So
Right,
his
it's a very bad
intent
idea.
is he thinks, which is correct, that we should only spend water and sewer on water and sewer, which is proper.
There may not be a formal ordinance stating that they have to be used on
Yeah.
sewer, but there's kind of that unwritten, if they're
Yeah.
earmarked for sewer and water,
Yeah.
they will better be spent for that unless there is just some unearthly reason why we can't spend it on that.
So these are funds that were earned from residents for their sewer and water, is what you're saying. Is that right? Or-
Well, from the utility bills.
Yeah, okay.
So, do we have, I guess my question is, do we have any kind of requirement that we've got to be able to provide sewer to these residents by a certain time in lieu of a septic system? And do we have any liability to the city if their septic system fails and we haven't provided sewer access?
Those are good questions. It is identified in our plan for us to provide sewer. I don't know that there's a specific time frame that we've identified to get it done.
There's no penalties at this time in that plan.
I would like to know how many of our residents are going to be served with that before I would really in favor of this. So if someone could look into that, and then somehow get a feel for how urgent that community, that group over there feels that it is to get this done. I just haven't heard anyone saying that's a priority, so I would like to hear that's a priority if we're going to spend $400,000 on this.
I don't think it becomes a priority until they have problems. We've had two in the past few months, one that was just interested in connecting, they haven't had problems yet, and another one that they had problems, and they was unable to connect.
And then do we force them to connect to it if we do get service out there and their septic system does fail? Do we require them to connect up even if they don't want to? And does it cost them money to connect up?
When their system fails, their septic fails, then they are required by law to connect to the sewer.
And how much does it cost them on average to connect up?
It depends on how far away they are. Like I said, 400 feet, it could be quite expensive.
Because my feeling goes back to when I was a resident and I liked how things were set up when I moved in, that I could use I didn't have much grass and I just used my regular water source rather than the pressurized irrigation. And then the city increased the price and I felt like I was pushed into purchasing the pressurized irrigation. And it became a sore spot for me and my neighbors that were forced into a $1,000 or $2,000 fee. So I just don't want it to be a burden too. So anyway.
Is it requirement by the city to hook up if the septic system fails, or requirement by the state?
State. And it's, it probably ought to be noted, and we ought to let the citizens know that if this was to take place prior to the resurfacing of the highway, then they should be notified and told that it would be advantageous cost-wise for them to put their lateral in before they asphalt the highway. Otherwise, they're gonna have to cut the highway and redo all of that.
Which the resident will have to pay for.
The resident do that, yeah.
So, Jeff, also, does the city or the resident that hooks up, do they pay the new, whatever the sewer impact fee is as well? When they go in and say, hey, my septic system failed, okay, now you have to pay the sewer impact fee. Are they obligated to pay that at that time as well? In addition to providing the lateral.
Connection fee, but
Is there a connection? I'm just looking.
Yeah, they would have to pay the impact fee, yes. It's an impact
Oh, it's an
fee.
impact.
Yeah, so impact fees and hookup fees are essentially the same thing, especially,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
TSSD would want an additional
So at this point, to David or Jeff or both, has this sewer line been designed to the point where we've got stations elevated? Is it engineering?
Yeah, it's engineering.
Does that plan include laterals for all those lots, or are you talking just main lines at this point? Because it is advantageous to put at least the Y and a stub lateral in, so that you don't have to cut the line every single time. I mean, I've done this a lot,
Yeah.
so I know.
It's a lateral to the property line, but not from property line into the home.
Okay.
So in addition to Rob's request to find out how many residents this affects, I think it would also be important for us to let our residents know, if we decided to do it at a later point, what would the increase in cost be to cut up a road that UDOT may not let us go open, or if they even will, and what the increase in cost would be for the residents to, you're saying install a lateral would be more expensive after construction was done on Canyon Road than before. Is that correct, Jeff?
Yes, Dave just indicated that we have the laterals in, so I just spoke on
Okay.
Canyon Road.
Because I think it would be-
Step that to the property, it wouldn't be onto their property, but step to the property line. So the residents are still required to install the line from their property line to wherever their septic or to the house.
But that wouldn't be affected by Canyon Road improvements, I think is what
No.
you're saying.
You know, that's what I just understood.
Okay.
Dave's comment.
It's just the Y and the stub of the property.
So I think it would be good for us to get a perspective of, we know what it would cost to do it now, but like Rob said, to figure out how many people this impacts, but also what's the cost if we don't do it now? If we do it 5 years from now or 10 years from now, how much is it going to increase?
Well, and will you not let us
And
find that
can we
out?
even do it?
Yeah.
And I think each individual resident that's affected should at least get a specific letter. I mean, it's probably not that many people. I mean, they should get a specific letter from the city stating that, you know, they're not here right now. But I guarantee if they come in and all of a sudden each purchase it with anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 of
Sewer issues.
they'll be here.
Oh, yeah, I would be.
Yeah. So I think it's advantageous for us to get something to
You know,
all
it
the
may be
residents that are
good.
affected.
It may be good to also add this to the newsletter too, for our next one, and just let residents know that it's something we're starting to discuss, and we hope to look at it in future council meetings.
Yeah.
If this affects PG as well, have we talked to PG about sharing the cost on this?
Yeah, I mean, we have approached that in general with them, and we haven't had any kind of, serious discussion as far as what the cost would be for each one, but we brought that up to them. One of the general philosophy of past councils has been, if the city provides the service, then those homes along the road would actually boundary adjust to get our service, and that would help clean up the border. And that may or may not be where this council wants to go. But we would have to discuss that and see, and if our council wants to cost share with Pleasant Grove and leave all the homes in the cities that they're in, then that's something that you could explore.
Okay.
And technically, doesn't Pleasant Grove have the same responsibility to provide service to these people as we do?
Yes,
Their residents.
and they're a lot further away from a sewer main, so
So they may be motivated to work with us then.
Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, this-
Cheryl, you have anything else you want to say?
No, not for this.
Not particularly.
No, not for this item.
Let's go to the next item.
Next time.
So, okay, the next item, I have 300,000 for maintenance equipment facility and site. And what this doesn't include, that I had on the retreat, I had another 50,000, which would be for a site plan that would happen in this current budget year. So, and then the funding sources would be 100,000 from the general fund, 100,000 from capital projects fund, and 100,000 from water and sewer. And that is for like a really, really, really basic shed. And that's if we get approval from Highland. And I went out to West Valley and their shed was like over $700,000. And it's just,
What's their shed used for?
golf.
What's that?
And, think used rough mowers like $48,000 and I don't know. The reason for this shed is it's a safety concern because originally when the shed was supposed to be built in the first place, Highland, I guess, didn't get their approval. So we're hoping that this is something that we can work out with them at this time. If not, then we would have to do a plan B, like around the driving range or something, and put a net so it doesn't hit. I mean, it's really not ideal. I think when the course plans were drawn out, this is where the maintenance shed was planned to go, and they were caught off guard when Highland didn't work with them the first time around. So that's why that's there, and it's my understanding that we're just trying to work with Highland and see what our options are.
I would like to suggest that we look at a couple different options, that we maybe look at an option of adjusting the gap there or making it safer, maybe getting a bid to just make some changes to the shed that we have to increase the safety of it. So I'd like to at least get a bid from a builder or someone to look at upgrading what we have, make it better or something, just to see what our options are.
Right.
Well, can I make a comment? Just as a general contractor, I mean, I've gone through the building and looked at it. I am very concerned that it probably can't be brought up to code. I mean, there are some very serious issues that when you start talking about remodeling and repair versus building new, sometimes there's an offsetting cost where it's a net zero. Whether you tear it down and start over, or you spend so much labor and so much material and so much time trying to retrofit something that's old and get it up to where it's at, that it doesn't make any sense to keep repairing something that's old when you can get the same building at a new cost that's the same. So it's just something we're going to have to look at.
One thing that
I would like to just see, a couple different options.
One of the things that I forgot to mention is that this is not a bid just for the building. The building would be under $200,000. This is a bid mostly, I mean, more than, at least probably half the cost is for stormwater issues.
And so that actually
Site improvements.
gets to my question. If it is more like a half instead of a third, would it make sense to charge half of it to the sewer water fund instead of a third like you've allocated right now?
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to look at where the bids came out and allocate it what was fair.
I know there's a lot of thoughts on this, pros and cons. I suggest the first thing we should do is actually get some bids and get a feel for what our options are. Would that be helpful for the council if we did that?
Yeah, I think in order to do that, though, we need to have some idea of what we're going to send out. Well, not even send out to bid, because that's the wrong word, but even to go out and talk to a contractor, we need to have some idea of what we're going to do. So I think we probably need to develop even a concept that we're going to look at.
So do you want to have David and his staff come up with a proposal in terms of what the maintenance shed should look like and then discuss it? Is that what you want?
Yeah, absolutely, because I think we need to keep everybody on the same page and make sure that we're actually looking apples to apples, because we could go out and talk to one contractor and he's looking at the Taj Mahal, and we go talk to another contractor and he's looking at the Quonset hut, and there's a huge range in between. So I think we really need to have our staff identify what our needs are, what our square footages are, what type of building is best for us, and look at probably all the stages and the different concepts, everything that we need as a city right now, and then go from there.
Let's do that. I don't think I want to have a drawn-out discussion on something before we have narrowed our focus a little bit. So if it's okay with council, David, can you come back with a proposal in terms of what our needs are? And at that point, let's have a full discussion in terms of what we want. And I know that some people want to do more, some people want to do less, but it seems premature to talk about that stuff until we know what our needs are. So
Agreed.
let's find out what they are first.
With the site plan, David, is that something that's easy to get bid out? Because I know we already got bids out on the building itself. I mean, we already did that just to kind of get a range of how much the building was. For the other parts of it, how much money do we need to spend just to get a bid?
What we're gonna have to really identify on the site is how we're going to take care of stormwater issues, containment of the fuel systems, things like that. I think we can get a rough idea. It won't be a bid. It won't be a contractor saying, I will do this for you guys at this cost. It will be more a general thing like, asphalt is $2.50 a square foot, and you guys have this many square feet roughly. And that's what it would be more like. It wouldn't be a bid per se.
Yeah, well, we could go out and say, okay, we're probably gonna need a concrete box that's got a 12-inch lip on it, that's got 250 square feet, that's 4 inches thick, sealed. I mean, we can develop kind of the specs that we know, and then go out to somebody and say, okay, what do you charge for a foundation wall per linear foot? What do you charge for slabs per foot? And start to develop an idea of what we need.
Jeff, do you think that is going to be easy to get a bid on? Because I know we got 37 contractors to get bids on the Mesquite part, and we only got 3 people that responded.
But I don't think we need bids at this point. I don't think.
I know, but I'm just saying.
And probably we won't be able to get down to, oh, we have this many linear feet of foundation wall. I mean, it's going to be very high level. It's not going to be, we know exactly the design of what the containment system looks like. We won't even have that.
Yeah.
It's going to be probably more general.
I just think it's going to be really rough.
So let's do this in order to accommodate where I think everyone's needs are. Is that you're going to talk with your staff and figure out what they think that their needs are, and then you're going to come back to us and tell us what you think that their needs are in relation to a maintenance shed. And at that point, the council's going to discuss what they want to spend on that maintenance shed and what they want it to look like. Does that sound agreeable to everybody? Okay. I don't see that we needed to prolong the discussion too much tonight because I think we're getting the cart before the horse here. So Cheryl, was there anything else that you wanted to address?
No, that's it.
I have one quick question. What was in the community recreation center phase 2 that we're putting off? Out of curiosity, what was in that $350,000 an hour budget?
No, it's done. It's done. So that's why it comes out of the budget.
Oh, I get it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Lopez. Very good. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Someone want to make a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Sorry.
Motion's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
You're done. Thank you. We're going to leave everything down. We have a meeting here tomorrow. Well, we have group meetings here every Wednesday. We're trying to find